Yeah, I'm afraid not. You see, the housing market has gotten so bad, I can put up with y'all paranormal asses anytime. Hey, welcome to the J-Man Show here on
J360 Radio.
Well, I tell you one thing. Doing the Monster Fest has really brought out the best in a lot of people. You know, outside of seeing what won't people do for YouTube clout, in addition to people sneaking around, going through houses and everything, and the neighbors chasing them out and all this stuff, it's a wild time to be alive here during the Mischief Month, or Spooky Month, or however you call it. Either way, I'm happy to be here. And no, I didn't do any of those things, as far as you know. But hey, J360 Legion, it is good to have you back here today. We have a few things to talk about in addition to some folklore and some haunted house shenanigans and all. I just find it interesting, because I was looking at Ghost Hunters the other day, and I know it's all for entertainment and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to do a deep dive on it, but I always wondered this. If you knew that house had severe problems and issues, why disturb them? You know what I mean? Let all of that stay over there. You know what I mean? Like sometimes ghost hunting, busting makes you feel good, yes, but see, the Ghostbusters had proton packs. You know what I mean? They had ways to handle things if it got out of control. You just going up in there with a flashlight and a camera saying, "Ooh, look at this. This is going to be really cool at my office party this week." You gotta love people, man. I just find it wonderful. You know, the thing about it is, though, it's kind of like those that try to have satanic rituals and stuff and open gates that they know damn well they're not prepared to close. So it's like, why are we going about this, huh? You know what I mean? Leave the Ouija board alone. You know what I mean? Go dress up. Go hang out with your cool friends. You know, those that be sitting out there wanting to play D&D and drinking Mountain Dew. And just leave it at that. I mean, it's just all what needs to be done. Or, you know, you could sit back and play a couple of video games. I hear Call of Duty Zombies is still popular. I mean, there's other ways of doing that other than trying to recite certain things that should not be recited in order to arouse and disturb the dead. Because eventually you're going to join them. So it's like, why are you rushing? Really? That being said, though, that haunted house that I talked about on previous Monster Fest is still standing, and it still has that light in the window, so it's like, yeah, buddy. I mean, I know a trap when I see one. See, it won't invite me in because I know about the neighborhood, but I do know that there are other people that stop, park in front of it, and look over there to it. And, you know, it's like you're looking at them, see, because I'm looking right down at them and stuff, and I'm like, all right, they've already made it halfway there. I mean, are they going to go in, or are they going to drive off? And usually they don't go in there. They end up just driving away from it. And I'm like, punk. I would have said the other word, but, you know, trying to keep an eye on this algorithm issue here that is affecting everybody now because language, even though I think it's all a joke, really. Terms of services, what can you do? But, see, shoot, I would find that a lot more scary than that house. But you never know who's living in there. It could be somebody that's of advanced age. It could be somebody up in there that lives a very private lifestyle. There's no reason to go in that haunted house when there's like, you know, a dozen other ones floating around here, especially in Delaware alone, you know. I hear that, you know, Woodburn in Dover, Delaware is actually pretty haunted. In addition to, like, what was it, Rockwood Mansion? Allegedly, like, they're being disturbed by the people who actually ran that mansion and all. I hear that the graveyard in front of the green is actually haunted by an old judge's spirit. They say he was like a mean-spirited judge, like one of those ironclad evil judges. And I'm sitting there thinking to this day, like, I'm wondering who it is because, like, I love history and everything, so I ride around and I try to look at archives. I try to look at, like, different things about who did what and who did when at certain points. And I could not find any record about it, but then again, there's always a different kind of record than the record that's published, right? See, like, little things like that, now I totally get the investigation why, Anyway, sometimes in talking about these things, you kind of want to dive into the stories about them. So let's go ahead and take a look at this article here on Rockwood Museum, or was the Rockwood Mansion. Yeah, they're all museums nowadays, but you know what I mean. This was called Built in 1851 and 1854. The Rockwood Mansion was the retirement home of Joseph Shipley, a distinguished merchant banker who designed the house to resemble an English country estate. But as anyone who's seen it can attest, the Gothic Revival architecture has all the makings of a classic haunted house, complete with a pet cemetery. That sounds familiar. I think I might have been there at one time when I was a kid. Let's see. Over the years, staff has seen the spirit of a man in a red smoking jacket, and the ghost of Shipley's great niece, Mary Binghurst, was 100 when she died in the home in 1965. Sometimes you smell lilacs, which was one of her favorite perfumes, said a parapsychologist. Her old bedroom occasionally dips in temperature. The basement is home to another spirit called the Shadow Man, and some have seen the ghost of a dog. Other unexplained occurrences include floating orbs and the disturbing sound of shoes on the stairs. Oh, you know what? After a while, you gotta think this, though. That could be just somebody out there cleaning the house, man. And not only that, somebody down there in the basement, right? There's always somebody in the basement. Hell, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if I was in there a few times. I did say I did go to this at one time. When I was a lot younger, you know what I mean? They used to take you on school trips like this all the time. Matter of fact, a famous house was actually where the man who penned the Declaration, the penman of the Declaration, his house, is down there in South Delaware, and John Dickinson, yeah. And allegedly, his whole thing, I think he probably is in there, because there have been moments where, the beds have been ravaged, and not to mention, at night, they say that they can hear a quill still writing. So, like I said, that one, I believe, is definitely haunted, among other things. But I gotta give kudos to the grounds people, though. They still looks fresh to this day. I should go ahead and make another trip out there. Hey, would you guys like that sometime? Yeah. See, I know we didn't go all out on this year's Monster Fest, but next year's Monster Fest is shaping up to be really, really awesome. So, oh my god, I think I'm about to go ghost hunting. Hey, I didn't make a bet with Stacy Jane, did I? Okay, because anybody who listens to the show and watches this show from time to time, I'm always like, I would never do it. You couldn't pay me enough. And then all of a sudden, I get the interest, and then all of a sudden, time to cough up the dough. Keep it moving. This one you guys already know about. I told you guys about this a long time ago. It was called Cooch's Bridge, and it was the only time Delaware had in-ground activity during the Revolutionary War. And they had a big battle across the bridge. See, because it was between the British and the colonists, right? So the colonists were making sure they had Philadelphia defended. And then, not to mention, as the British were coming along, I think they did take over the house, if I'm not mistaken. They were trying to get into Philadelphia to gain some information. Now, initially, we were winning. United States-wise, we were winning. But they later turned the tide on us, and then they got into Philadelphia on September 26, 1777. However, a lot of the Delawareans that fought at Cooch's Bridge, they actually did journey with George Washington's campaign. So, while that's very nice to talk about, what does that got to do with you, right? Well, because it's the aftermath of a war, they say on certain nights, there is actually a restless soldier out there wandering around looking for his lost head. And also, there's a story about if you turn your, and I wouldn't suggest this because it is a bridge, and there's really nowhere to get around on some of them old roads, especially that one. If you shut down your car early in the morning in front of George Cooch's bridge, your car will start to move on its own. Now, I don't know if it's real or not, because if anything, the site itself is rather creepy. And the fact of being there at a certain time of night, you best keep on moving, you know? It's like, no way. But it's one of those kind of things where you think about it sometimes. And there is a painting called The Ghost of Cooch's Bridge, so check it out sometime, read up on it. But it's one of those nice landmarks here in Delaware, though. But I'd say this. The most haunted area in Delaware, I would say, would have to be Blue Hen Mall. Nah, I'm kidding. Actually, it's not even Blue Hen Mall anymore. It's like the Etna Center now or some BS, man. Anyway, what I'm going to say is, though, the most haunted area in Delaware has to be the Cypress Swamp. The Great Cypress Swamp is one of those areas you do not want to go to. Hell, you would want to go there in the morning, obviously. But even then, it's questionable. You're at your own risk when you do, because it's a swamp. It will pull you right in no matter what happens, especially if it's raining. There's no real guardrails. There's really no safety at all dealing with that spot. And not to mention, the forest is so deep and dense, it'd be the perfect place to film Swamp Thing. And allegedly, there was a monster that was living out there, even though it came back as a hoax. But you know what? I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. There's so many things that happen out there. That swamp has enough stories that even the best horror host or content creator couldn't make up at all. Because there's been multiple times where bodies have washed up in it. Multiple times of mysterious things happen out there in that swamp area. So it's like one of those things where it's like, at own risk when you go ahead about that stuff. But you know what? They're also building like some sort of a community park out there too. But hey, at the end of the day, it's all about getting people to go there. It's not about your safety at all, right? I mean, after all, Camp Crystal Lake is a wonderful place to go, isn't it? I mean, after all, as long as you don't disturb the scary, enticing, intimidating figure that lives there, I think you'll be all right. And don't plan to do while you're out there. Hey, but you know what? As we're mentioning it, it may have some competition, though, because there's another site just like it, and it's Lum's Pond State Park. I mentioned that before on this series, such as, like, it's a good place to go to if you're camping, picnicking, and, enjoying the sunlight. But at night, it is a crime scene like every place else. I mean, if anything, a park is not a safe place to be in at night. And I've said, and I'm putting that lightly because I know a lot of y'all have seen some things. I mean, I know my demographic out there, especially when it comes to terms where a runaway girl would meet their end in the 1870s when encountering a murderer out there. And they say, like, if you hear, like, screams and muffled sounds near the Swamp Forest hiking trail, you might want to turn the other way. Of course, they also said that, John Lum, who ran a mill house along the Chesapeake and Delaware Canal, some people have said they reported seeing the miller and his son roaming the grounds and hearing the phantom sounds of a water wheel. Which is interesting because, like, all the mills and stuff kind of shut down around there. Wasn't there, like, this big fire that happened? See, I used to know this kind of stuff right off the bat, but I gotta say this, though. Lum's Pond is nice. But, when the sun starts to go down, go to your car and go home. But if you still need something that really wants to get you all shook up, I would say go to Fort Delaware sometime. Fort Delaware is actually a great landmark, and they make a killing off of this. It's called, like, the Ghost Tours. Yep, you get to spend all kinds of nights and everything over there at Fort Delaware, and you get to see all sorts of wild things, hear some noises. Make sure, like, you enjoy yourself because you may have a roommate. Ghost tours are something, man. I highly recommend it. In addition to Frightland and all sorts of other cool things in the state of Delaware. Since I know we're getting closer to spooky time and all, I wanted to go ahead and drop a few things in case any of y'all are traveling or moving about. I know there's a lot going on, and I know for some of you it's the least of your worries right now, but hey, I just wanted to go ahead and be festive this time. But I want to talk about some of the folklore that is ahead of us and all sorts of things. Especially African-American folklore, Because I remember one time we were talking about a haint. And a haint is one of the craziest things that could ever come about. And I gotta admit this, because Fort Delaware is a Civil War prison, you might want to go see an exorcist about cleaning some of that ecto off of you, because you might bring a haint in. And see, a haint is an evil spirit that is sent to cause mayhem and death. And these are usually from the Gullah Geechee people, proud descendants of African slaves, and they live predominantly in the Low Country and on the barriers off of the coast of Georgia, Carolinas, and North Florida. But at the same time, though, they come here too. So you want to be aware of what you interact with when you go into a haunted place. See, they say haints enter the home through open windows, doors, small holes, cracks, or keyholes. And in the hoodoo belief, a haint is described as a witch-like monster that is out to chase their victims to death by exhaustion. So there's no escaping it, of course. And as for protection, well, you would need to paint the porch a haint blue. It's a haint. Why am I saying haint for? I don't know, man. See, sometimes, I lived here too long. It started messing with my voice. Let's see. I don't know. A special shade of light blue could ward evil away, huh? Well, just make sure it's not Tiffany blue. Because if you paint something Tiffany blue, they are going to come a-knocking. I remember taking a look at the trademarks for things when it came to the colors for J360. I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to stick with what I have. It's just something about that. But if you are not scared of haints, try a boo hag. Now, boo hags they're usually in parks and forests and everything. So, oh wow, I did mention that earlier, huh? Well, I guess you're going to have to watch out for it. But a boo hag is a red, skinless monster that hides in the skin of their victims during the day and shed it at night to go riding. They sneak into bedrooms at night to sit on your chest, steal your breath, leaving the victim weak, sick, and scared night after night. It's almost like sleep paralysis. And it can be very similar to a haint. But you see, the thing about it is also similar to a skinwalker. So, they say that haint blue usually works on them, but at the same time, you would want an exorcist that would really know about how to remove the root and all of the sources of a boo hag from you. Well, you know what? Like I said, I always had it like this. I said when the laws of man don't apply to me and I'll come back to haunt everybody after a while, I probably would be a boo hag. Or something like that. Here's another one. This one's called Flat Eyes. The Flat Eye is known as a monster or a boogeyman serving as a spooky warning to children to stay away from the woods at dark. They, much like a boo hag, are shapeshifters, and while in human form, they only have one eye. Stories say that they torment and haunt wandering victims to drive them insane and steal away misbehaving kids to eat. Of course, they say if you are experiencing one, you might be on Confederate land or you might be near Confederate treasure. I believe the land itself is a treasure. The treasure that could really help me. But nobody said I was going to share it with you. And my madness and wrath will have no rest. So even if you stay here long, I'm going to be here forever. And then I'm going to haunt you. And make sure one way or another, you'll never enjoy your treasure. It's just stories, guys. I mean, at the end of the day, it is good for what it's supposed to do. Kind of like a fairy tale. But I don't think any of this stuff is real. And you shouldn't worry about it. I mean, after all, it's not like that person standing behind you and all that kind of stuff looking at you real intently. Let's see. Haitian zombies. No, why can't they just call it zombies? Why do zombies have to have a different flavor? But then again, they have the Chinese hopping vampires that are from like Mr. Vampire and what was that one movie that I really like? It's called Rigor Mortis. Yeah. Which, by the way, them damn things can jump. Let's see. Ooh, okay. You guys might like this. See, the origin of these zombies was around West Africa. So let's see. Hoodoo and root work talk of shamans and witches that could kill their enemies, utilizing either their powers or making them kill themselves, and they would be able to resurrect these people as brainless, bloodthirsty servants. Damn! Could you imagine dealing with someone like that and you didn't even know it? And chances are that they would turn you into a husk of who you formerly were, but there's no chance for you to ever rest, and the only thing you would know is how to feed or to be abused by this person. Damn! You know what I mean? Like, sometimes maybe we all need to quit fooling around with each other. I mean, think about that. Trust me, the most I'd rather be is a ghost. At least then you know, in the paranormal ways and wherever the hell you're anchored to or haunting from, you could go ahead and scare the living hell out of anybody and leave it at that. But as far as actually hurting people, well, I don't know, that's questionable. Then again, it depends on the people I'm dealing with, right? Because, sure, I could be friendly, I could do the Casper thing, but then there's the concept of, you know, the way those people acted to that other voodoo man who was in this Tales from the Dark Side episode called The Parker Forefront. Let me tell you this, the way that woman acted, she deserved every bit of that man coming back from the grave and just using all his voodoo power and destroying the living hell out of her. Yeah, even for a CBS show, it was rather intense at the time, but I'm just saying this. Yeah, she deserved it. So you gotta not be messing with people in terms of like their culture, where they're buried at, like where they put their money at, or any of these other kind of things, especially when you're making voodoo style deals. You know what I'm saying? It's just interesting how people will go about things, and usually it's their own fault because certain lands you don't mess with, you know. And I'm wondering how true to form that is, because I know of certain rich individuals out there that don't take heed to the warning and have found out in multiple ways that they done messed up. I'm not trying to say any names or anything, but, you know, it's just one of them kind of things to think about, if you get my drift. And that being said, though, let's go on ahead and take something out from the vault for you all to listen to. From Monster Fest Stories of the Past. Take it away.
Monster Fest.
I'm your host, J-Man, of course. This one's called The Man with Two Faces. A disturbing video once made the rounds on the internet. In the clip, doctors are treating a hideously deformed man who has what appears to be a second face on the back of his head, complete with a mouth which opened in tandem with the other, tongue, teeth, and other crude facial features. It was said that the man was Chang Shou-ping, who lived as a hermit in a remote Chinese village. Too terrified to show his face to the world, the local children would jeer and throw rocks when he left his house. In the 1970s, he was discovered by a troop of American soldiers who rescued him from his tormentors and took him back to the States, where his second face was removed in a 12-hour operation as part of a diplomatic deal. It is speculated that his case may have been an example of fetus in fetu, an extremely rare condition occurring in multiple pregnancies when one embryo becomes stuck inside of the other and grows inside of its twin. Have you guys ever heard of that scenario? I mean, think about it, right? You could just be growing and minding your own business, but it turns out that you were actually in somebody else's space, and they're slowly but surely either growing in your head or in your spine or, God forbid, your ass.
J360 Radio!
This one is called On the Hunt. Every year, Barry and Conklin would go up to the mountains for a few days to hunt deer. One day, Conklin returned from the mountains without Barry. He told everyone Barry had gone missing. The police put together a search party, but the heavy snow came just as they started to look for Barry. They didn't find any trace of him for months. The police finally found his body in the spring. He was lying against a tree deep in the woods. Someone had broken his skull. He still had his rifle, but his favorite hunting knife was gone. Everyone thought Conklin must have killed him, but they could never prove it. Conklin went back up the mountains later that year. This time he brought his friend Ed. They spent the first day hiking deep into the woods to set up camp. Ed got so tired that he went to sleep early. A few hours later, he woke up to the sound of Conklin screaming, "Don't do it! Please don't do it!" It was too dark to see anything. Ed found his flashlight and got out of his tent. He found Conklin lying against a nearby tree. He was dead. A hunting knife had been pushed deep into his heart. Ed brought the police to Conklin's body. When they dusted the knife for fingerprints, they were shocked by what they found. The fingerprints, they belonged to Barry.
Monster Fest.
I gotta say, it isn't bad to see these things play out. Hey, but I mean, you're at your own risk when it comes to camping. I mean, some people say when you're out there traveling and everything, take people with you because, there's strength in numbers and you don't have to go it alone. But they never said you were going to make it back with those people, and then chances are, you might get wiped out by some of them just because you trusted them too much. Oh, what the hell am I telling you guys? See, that's the influence of the Monster Fest win around here, man. It will make you say certain things. Not wrong, though, but it will make you say certain things. Oh, man. Okay. Hey, speaking of which, I'm currently looking at this movie called Classroom 6. Now, see, this is one of those found footage kind of movies. Like, this woman is a reporter, and she has her news crew with her, and they're all pretty much trying to do the ghost hunters thing inside of this allegedly haunted classroom. And, honestly, this would have worked better if it was one of those kind of movies that dealt with, like, some mysterious things happening in a classroom, or like a group of kids that were in detention find out there's a lot going on inside of their school building, and then maybe the principal is trying to take care, trying to wipe out certain teachers because it'll take care of overhead or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just would work better. But you see, much like any found footage film, it's conversation mostly. Somebody seeing this, somebody making an awkward look about this and everything. And then, of course, reaction shot here, reaction shot there. And the occasional you might see something creepy go down. I know I'm usually hard on this genre a lot. But there are times where I give it a pass. Such as like, that live Scream movie. And then not to mention Cloverfield. And then also... No, that's about it. I mean, like, what other ones? No, that's about it. Well, Cloverfield was good, though, because, it had so much promise growing with that. And it did fine with 10 Cloverfield Lane. And then they made that series on Netflix that, once again, it's just like, why? Anyway, going back into it about this film here. Maybe I'm doing all right by giving it a chance, but nothing's really happening. It's kind of like, Paranormal Activity, which will forever be on the infamous Monster Fest list. All of them, by the way. Even though Katie was pretty hot in the first one, but, hotness can only get you so far. I want to be creeped out. I want to be scared. I want to be like, oh, damn. You know what I'm saying? To the point where I actually can give you guys a great report. I don't want to be sitting there and then saying, oh, something will occasionally happen. Because, it just isn't good. And what kind of report am I bringing back to you guys? It's like the time when I went to go see Venom 3. Now, before any of y'all are probably sitting there saying, why, J-Man? Well, I'll tell you why. I had tickets, man. You know what I mean? They had to be used. I mean, I wasn't going to get anything if I sold them. A loss is a loss, all right? It's one of those things where it's like, look, we're either going to see this matinee or I'm out $11. Things like that. Oh, before somebody y'all be like, hey, that's affordable. Well, I know. But still, I could have done that with something else. That could have been put towards my tablet, damn it. Lots of things. Even though I did get that money back eventually. But the point about all that stuff, it ain't the point about how much I paid for this thing. It's the point that when you go see a movie like that, you want to see some action. Or any of these horror films here. Now, patience is one thing, and suspense is something that goes along with it. But after a while, all that's going on in this is that the people are goofing around and the camera is having a bit of issues and focus problems and all that kind of stuff. If you've seen one, you've seen them all. Needless to say, when Blair Witch came out, it was different. All right? Like, a lot of that stuff really wasn't going on a mainstream level like that. That's why it was unique. That's why it was what it was. And even then, it was phenomenal at the time. Expectations were very low then. But you see, nowadays, you get a couple of friends together, you go out in the woods, you take out your camera phone, you just wave it around at a bunch of things and maybe make something seem scary. And hey, you made it, right? See, this is why I need to get back into it all again, and that's why, like, everything for J360 TV is happening the way it is. Because, once again, these people are still in this hallway, and it is about 5 minutes in on movie time. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at that wrong. 15 minutes in on movie time. See, 5 minutes, you can get away with it. Sort of, depending on who your audience is. Or, you know what, you can add another one to that list, by the way. Not the bad list, the good one. Wreck. Wreck was good. All three of those I can watch over and over again. And those are found footage films. But, you know, like I said, because they know what they're doing, they know what they're talking about, and it's happening during an event each time. These are just people sneaking about. Or at least the first Wreck was kind of the same, wasn't it? Because they were going to that hotel. Like, it was that one journalist, her cameraman, and the firefighter brigade going over to this one housing, and then you got to see like all of the strange stuff happen at the end. So, you know, like I said, it has that factor and it pushes the momentum a little bit. And, you know, at that point you saw something in that. Whereas with this, whatever. Which, by the way, I should watch those again later on. Later on, because this is all about the new movies this week. Which, by the way, as we're going into jams tomorrow, we're going to be seeing... I'll be throwing in a few more movie reviews and stuff. So far, this is getting... Like I said, hotness only gets you for so far because the woman is attractive. It's getting a 0. Yeah, they ain't getting no bloody knuckles on this one. And, oh yeah, they just did the lights off cliche too. Whatever. But anyway, as I'm working on a few things right now, and I managed to go ahead and haunt the hell out of you all a little bit, it's time for me to get up out of here. But, it's time to go ahead and get J360 Jams prepared for tomorrow. And I'm going to let you guys know if something is special is happening this weekend. I do have something up my sleeve, but I'm just wondering, should I do it now or should I do it for the last week of the fest? So, maybe I'll run a poll later on after Jams, huh? And let you guys vote on it. After all, it is all about, you know, community engagement this time around. But until then, though, you guys take care of yourselves, be safe, enjoy yourselves. We're back on the weekend again. This is J-Man signing off. Peace.